Hello, I moved a little, got some food, and I'm ready to do primarchs listener strinstorm, Black Rage summary. Thanks Random Raider 1028 for this chapter. I wasn't heartless enough to turn down my first request. The Black Rage. There's the link. Last tape had left the Primarchs shaken. Not only would the Great Crusade fail and Horus turn to treachery, but their father, the Emperor of Mankind himself, would be mortally wounded, leaving the Imperium to digress into a superstitious hellscape. Any lingering doubts about their father calling them to Terra had dissipated. These were grim tidings. Even Angron and Mortarion, Primarchs who despised the Emperor, were displeased with the state of the future. Sanguinius detected that his brothers needed time to process what they had seen, suggested taking a brief break while he went to go find their father to bring him to the next viewing. The Primarchs each split off from the main group to converse in quiet voices. Brother, the Lord of the Death Guard approached the Red Angel of the World Eaters. We must discuss our future. Angron snarled. There is nothing to discuss. Father's Imperium will fail as all tyrants inevitably do. That is the future. Mortarion responded ponderously, but perhaps these tapes will change that, and what will happen to us when the crusade is over? Who is us, Mortarion? The spiteful son chuckled. Those of us who don't buy into Father's grand design, the ones who recognize him for the tyrant he is. You heard the tapes the same as I did, Angron. Once we have no further use, our father will destroy us utterly. Angron looked mutinous, but accepted his brother's logic. Perhaps we should talk. In time, Sanguinius returned with the Emperor in tow. The father of the Primarchs' face was grave as he addressed his sons. You understand how the severity of the situation? I sojourn you for this next listening. I have already selected the tape. The Emperor selected the tape labeled Black Rage. Let us watch. Okay. As the screen lights up, it reveals two space marines in a form of armor unfamiliar to the Primarchs. One of the marines lacks a helmet, and his expression is contorted in a rictus rage. Interesting. The Emperor interrupts the video from his throne. I have never seen marines who wear that armor. Gelman spoke the next, answering the brother's implied question. Perhaps it is a splinter from one of the legions, Father. If my theory is correct and the Primarchs have all disappeared, perhaps their legions were unable to maintain cohesion. The Emperor nodded and gave his son a faint half-smile. A logical deduction, my son. In the past, even this minor display of affection would have invited jealousy from the other Primarchs. It was only rarely that the father offered praise after all, but with the words of the last song still ringing in their heads, Gilman's brothers were finding it difficult to trust their father's display. There's a shudder in every breath. All my thoughts are of delivering death. If it wasn't for the lack of nails, I'd say these are world eaters. Nice one, Lehman. Lehman snarked from his throne. Magnus, unable to resist the jib, chimed in. Odd. If it weren't for the lack of pelts, I'd say they were base wolves. The Wolf King growled, but a warning look from the Emperor directed the two made them hold their tongues. The anticipation found a way in like a scratching inside my skin. Partharaba, who had been uncharacteristically quiet for some time now, interjected with his own thoughts. Leaving aside the childish bickering of our brothers, these Marines do seem to be berserk. I wonder which of us they are descended from. The other Primarchs considered the question but honestly, they had no idea. Rologodorn believed that it was possible they were his sons. Sigismund, in particular, had shown some disturbing tendencies towards rage in the past. Baroga was dedicated to only speaking the truth. He would hold his tongue until he knew for sure. A force of nature, I am unleashed, channeling the rage that hid beneath. That line, Sanguinius had both thought. No, it would be impossible for my sons to fall so far. But dark voices in his psyche gnawed at him, dragging the gene flaw he had passed on to his children to the forefront of his mind. The rage he saw in that marine. He had seen it in Angron, yes, but Angron's rage was an honest thing, something that was never concealed. His own sons, on the other hand, the angelic primarch dismissed the idea once more and turned back to the screen. Overflowing, I, a vessel of vengeance, unburdened by the bloodlust of war, release my shell from this frail confines and pay no heed to the warning signs. Never before have I craved such carnage. None will make it out alive. The Emperor tutted, shameful. A marine should be figure of hope for the people, not this. Conrad and Angron both sneered. That was never our purpose, father, and you know it. Surrounded by corpses, I will embody their fears. I have still yet to be sated. It wasn't sufficient. I won't allow this in. Yet I sense the foes regrouping. My blood once more starts boiling. I feel the carnage calling. Alight with fury, now my soul is burning, but not 1,000 kills will cease this yearning. Angron felt empathy for these warriors. The same uncontrollable rage within them burned within his own breast after all. Perhaps they were his sons. He would be pleased to have them one day. I try to wrest control, but it's concerning that no attempt to calm myself is working. Sanguinius's fears were worsening by the line as it became more difficult to deny that these wayward berserkers were part of his own legion. Had he failed after all? Were the souls of his sons still corrupted? This failing terrified the angel, perhaps more than the grim picture of the Imperium painted by the last song. But out of ego, but not out of ego, but out of concern for his sons, if the Emperor deemed the Legion truly irredeemable, no, he could not let that fate befall his sons. He would have to redouble his efforts to cure the red thirst when he returned to the crusade. I'm not alone in this mind of mine. It grows in strength, and as every shot of lands direct this anger forward, I am unleashed. Like a rabid attack dog, I am sick. This was the angel's worst fear. Not only had he not been able to help his sons, if anything in the future the issue is worse. My thoughts are dragging me to places they shouldn't. My eyes are living lives that I never knew of. I am no longer sure of what time I am trapped in, or of the battle I now stand here enwrapped in. Fascinating, Magnus muttered to himself, but not quietly enough, as he finds himself on the receiving end of looks ranging from inquisitive to murderous. And the Crimson King hurried to explain his meaning. The affliction these Marines are suffering from seems to be psychic in nature, more than a physical mutation. I suspect they have been assaulted by a powerful psyker. And why, brother, would you attack one of the Emperor's legions? Mortarion asked, his voice slick with accusation. The Crimson King was shocked. What, I would never... You are the only psyker strong enough to affect an entire legion, except the Emperor himself, the only psyker strong enough to drive Horus to treason. It has taken me this long to find proof of your true disloyalty, and I will not tolerate your sorcery any longer. The building storm of psychic power and bloodlust in the room suddenly dissipated as the Emperor of Mankind himself raised his hand and allowed his power to spread across the room. Enough. I will not allow accusations without proof, Beast Mortarion. We will discover the truth in time. Perceptive feverish, as if with a virus. In every foe I now see visions of Horus. Horus flinched. Ever since the last song, the War Master had been grappling with his memories, struggling to find any clue as to why his future self would turn traitor. He loved his father. He loved his brothers. Yes, he couldn't understand. He just couldn't understand. How could you betray us all? I can see nothing but the damage caused. Each word stabbed into the War Master. The pain they caused much deeper than physical, but it was just as painful as any blade. I'll pile the bodies here of all your thrall and cut the answer out for once and all. Your last words will be answered to why, Sanguinius. And Sanguinius' fears were realized. These Berserker Marines were his sons, not Angron's, not Rogol's, his. And the rage that they were manifesting was his. This was shocking, heartbreaking. He was the source of his son's fall in the future, more than ever disgusted him. The other primarchs had a more tame but still shocked reaction. They had all seen the rage of the sons of Sanguinius before, but it was still shocking to know that one of the Blood Angels could lose control of themselves so completely. Vulcan, noticing the plight of his brother, placed a comforting hand on his shoulder and received a watery smile in return. Vulcan squeezed Sanguinius' shoulder. and a silent message conveyed, "Are you all right?" Vulcan got all the answers he needed from his brother's eyes, and it saddened him greatly. "Whilst I weave among the legions of dead, there is no answer that will satisfy me. You'll pay with blood, no matter what is said." Horus was a courageous warrior, but even he was not beyond fear, and in hearing the hate of the voice of his kind brother, he found it. Horus knew that Sanguinius could kill him if he wished. The man was the best duelist of the primarchs. He had trusted their bond of brotherhood to prevent any potential confrontation, but his foolish future self may yet doom him to die by the Blood Angel's sword. "I have grown deaf to the shouts of my brothers. I have lost my vision, everything red. I will show no mercy to the ones who have fled, trapped in a vision where disloyalty meets its end." It was with a somber atmosphere that the song stopped. And there's part 3 of If the Primarchs Listened to Strinstorm.